Awesome, man. Well, Chris, want to thank you first of all for joining me on the 1 minute mentor. I don't quite know why I called it 1 minute, probably a bit of clickbait because it's clearly going to be more than 1 minute. But the idea is that we would have a discussion about, I guess, your story, how it, fits into your life, how mentoring's played a part, and the whole, I guess, circle of life, as they say. But Chris, before we go any further, would you just give myself and my audience just a short little bio of your story to today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have had a almost a 6 year sort of full time employment stint throughout my life so far. I'm 23 years old at the moment. So as soon as high school finished for me, we went straight into a full time job, which is real estate. I went into property management for 2 years, and then after that, 3 years in real estate sales. So had a full real estate sort of overview on life. And I went on this holiday, and it was a great holiday. 2 weeks. I met this group of people that were traveling the world, had started a business, and were able to work from wherever they wanted, and they created an incredible lifestyle from this AI business that they could do online. And it fully shifted my perspective on what was possible and what I actually wanted in life. And so since that point, I was sort of looking for different things to do. And I came across the technology called AI calling. So that's how you can speak to an AI agent over the phone and have a live, natural sounding conversation with them. So I did that. I realized that I could actually apply that in real estate and replace a role that I was doing in real estate, which was cold calling.
Hmm.
So instead of me personally doing the cold calling, I actually had this AI agent cold call prospects and find leads. And so that's how the journey of AI calling started for me. And since then, we've helped a bunch of different industries. We've done, ticketing for major rugby teams in New Zealand, for instance, where we call uh, the audience members and sell them the next game tickets or maybe a season pass, for instance. So a lot of different industries we've helped, but the one that really stuck with us and the one that we gelled with the most was healthcare.
Hmm.
And we realized that at the end of last year, and so we focused all of our energy in healthcare. We realized that 1 out of 3 calls in healthcare in New Zealand are missed, which is crazy. It's so much business gone. It's so many customers frustrated. And we realized if we could make an AI receptionist that would answer all of those phone calls for healthcare centers in
Yeah.
New Zealand and worldwide, then hopefully we'd have a fantastic product. So that's what we built, and we launched it in January. We've got over 100 customers using it so far, and we're just trying to grow that from here.
I mean, wow, what a cool story, and just like an adventure. I guess what I really want to ask you is it more fun than not? Because I bet it's hard.
For sure, it's hard. Well, I think the hardest thing is letting go of something that works already. You know it works. You know you've got a job that's earning possibly good money, possibly a standard amount of money, but you're comfortable. And I think it's pushing to that uncomfortable to see what else is possible that's the scary thing. But for me, that amount of uncomfort, I think if I didn't shoot that shot and go there, I would just regret that down the line.
Mm,
So for
mm.
me, that the fear of the regret of that is actually bigger than the fear of failing in whatever I do. So
Yeah,
that's the sort of mindset that I like to adopt, I think.
and is there things in your like upbringing or people who have helped guide you that I guess give you the ability to take that leap? Because for many people, including myself, it took negative experiences. Like, for example, for myself, I think I was a fine worker. and I was happy to turn up and I was a good team player. But the bit that always didn't sit well with me is managers would essentially tell me things that they wouldn't live by. And if you promise me that you're going to, look after you put KPIs in place, right? And my expectation is that you do your part and I'll do my part. And it really kind of hurt me because I'm an emotional character. And so I had to be pushed into doing something on my terms. What about you? Because I get the feeling that, you kind of understand that uncomfortable feeling you have is going to be worth it. Because if you don't look at it now, it doesn't go away. It just will raise its head on another day. And would hate to look up and realize we're 60 years old and never tried. And so I guess I want to ask one for those people who are a bit scared to try something, what gave you the courage?
Everyone gets given different cards in life. Of course, everyone's got different opportunities, different benefits, or maybe they don't have those benefits. And so you've just got to play the cards that you've been given in life. And of course, you're going to see people that may have so much more support around them to enable them to do the things that they want to do. But you've got to realize that maybe you just don't have those cards and you've got to play the best cards that you've got. And I think one of the main things personally for me that gave me the confidence to go out there, to leave my job, to move country and start something from nothing was savings, to be honest. And,
Mm.
and the ability to know that I could live another few months without having to earn a dollar. And I think that behind you is necessary to take a leap like that.
Yeah. No, that's a great insight because I guess people think of the startup founder, we're just going to go all in. But I
Mm.
guess there's a bit of strategic thinking. And had you had like a background in how to run a business, or did you have to learn that as you were looking for opportunities in this AI space?
Honestly, so when I first saw this opportunity, I was very naive on business. I didn't know how business sort of worked at all. So I thought it was going to be so easy. I thought I found a fantastic product, just everyone's going to buy it, and this business is going to be so easy. I couldn't have been more wrong. Like there are so many things that you don't think about in business. Like for instance, last month it was all about customer support. We realized, right, we've got 100 customers now. They've all got things that they want to bring up, recommendations. They need help setting up their AI receptionist. We don't have any customer service. We're forgetting about things. We're missing things. We didn't ever think about customer service, but it's actually such a core part of the business. If your customers aren't happy, they're going to leave. So we had to create a sort of whole mainframe and structure around that. And honestly, it's something that we couldn't have learned at university or anything like that. I think you've just got to jump into it and learn it as you go.
I wonder too, like you reference university. First of all, university goes for a couple of years, so you kind of have people around which you can throw ideas. But I guess at the rate you're trying to innovate, I guess where I'm trying to head my question towards is like, who are mentors for you? Because I guess the internet has to be a mentor, right? Learning rapidly, watching videos, trying to understand. Um, I guess the rate of change is something that's very interesting. How do you see that at the moment? So I've asked you a question around mentorship, but also what's your relationship with the rate of change? Like so many things can change from day to day. And how do you do you wake up excited to see what's coming? Or are you like, man, I hope there isn't something that's going to like wipe my business out in like one day?
I know that in terms of the change and the rate of change, there's a very good chance, of course, because I'm in the AI space particularly, that a product could come along by a massive company and completely just wipe it out, right? So there's always that potential, but I think there's always that potential. You're always going to have competitors in any industry that you go into.
Mm.
So I think that's part of business. You just got to accept that there's a risk with whatever business you go to and you start. Every morning when I wake up, I've just put up a whiteboard at the end of my bed. It's got all my goals on it. It's got our company goals on it. It's got a little sort of KPI as to when we're going to book a trip with my business partner who's going to come and visit me in Bali, which is fantastic.
Awesome.
And yeah, so every morning, I'm excited to look at that. I'm going, right, what are we doing today to work towards our goal?
Mm.
And yeah,
Can you share a bit more about goals, how you process them, how you came across that, how you set them? Sometimes we get caught in these ideas that I've got to have this, I've got to have that, but I don't really hear people talk about the steps they take to set those and what's useful, not just getting the dopamine hit from saying I've got goals, but actually
mm,
actionable steps that you can move towards.
I think for me, I'm not someone who follows like theory books or follows more practical ways of doing things. To be honest, I think goals for me are literally this: is literally every day I sit down and I go, what am I doing today that will get me to that goal, get me closer to that goal? What actionable steps am I doing? And so I have a checklist every day, a list of things to do. In that checklist, it's categorized. So it's um, the, h- the points that are going to generate or contribute to generating income, which is, of course, at the end of the day for a business is the main goal. So those are the first points. Then the secondary points are how we can, improve the business and improve the way we do things. And so they're all categorized. And I think it's a day to day thing for me.
Looping back to mentorship now, like how did you learn that? Like I was surprised being so late finding mentors. That's why I have a bit of a passion around it because I didn't know it
Mm,
existed. I didn't know there were people who were willing to give you their time and even this idea of the silent mentor, people we might watch online and learn from. And
mm.
so I guess like, with the Chris that I'm sitting here with today, like who's played a big part in helping you think the way you do, because I don't think everyone's got a goal list on at the end of their bed. And I'm very
Yeah, yeah.
fascinated by, people might think, oh, that's like, oh, we don't really need that, but I like the idea of setting the intention, setting the goal, and then, like you say, doing something every day that's going to help you get there. And then people will say, how'd you get there? And it's like, well, I took a step every day and I said more yeses than nos, and I was brave when I needed to be. So, yeah, how does that work for you, Chris?
I haven't actually had in person mentors that have been able to just be there whenever I want to ask questions and sort of go back and forth. I would love that. That'd be a dream, but it's honestly not the reality. The reality is that everything I've learned has been online, and I've I've invested, probably around 5,000 New Zealand dollars into different courses online and learning all these different things from
Mm,
di different sources. I mean, for instance, last year I paid $1,500 for an email marketing course, a cold email marketing course. Just last week, we finally got to launch a cold email marketing course. I used everything I learnt from that course last year, and it has paid dividends to the amount of interest we're generating, the amount of business that we're getting from that marketing campaign. I had no idea about cold email marketing before that. So I think it's like whenever I need something, I always go online. I do my research. I find someone who's actually qualified. Of course, there's a, a lot of things to be cautious of. People that aren't actually doing what they say they're doing online.
mm,
But if you actually put in the research and find people that are doing what you want to do and are where you want to be, then I think that's so valuable. So
mm.
valuable.
That's awesome. I mean, have you got any tips for those who are searching, trying to sort through the weeds, if you like, because you're right. If you jump online, you can find something for everything. So I guess two questions. One is like, how do you know what you need to focus on? And like, do you track that? And two, like, let's say it's uh, like SEO or something like that, would you just look for people you trust to see their recommendations? Or, because I guess the truth is someone can make themselves look fantastic, and that's everyone's fear, right? You put your hard earned money or hard earned savings into something and you're just getting garbage back.
It's true. I think you have to take that risk sometimes, and I mean, you can of course do as much research as you can, but there's quite likely people out there, fake results, fake what they say they're doing, and I think you have to use a bit of instinct, gut feeling, and trust, and a little bit of risk to get there and to learn. Um, I think, yeah, possibly I've invested in a few different things that haven't got me the amount of return that I would have hoped that it
Yeah.
would. But I think the ones that have worked outweigh the ones that don't.
Mm.
In terms of learning from people as well, one thing I will share is I have no technical background. So my business partner is the complete technical wizard of everything that we do. And I wouldn't have been able to create this business without him. So actually one of the most important things I would say is surrounding yourself with the people that do have the knowledge of what you're doing. If you've got a friend that has the missing piece to what you're looking for, then that might actually be all you need. Yeah, that's been outstanding.
Do you think we are close to somebody who has a creative mindset or an initiative with, like, I guess what I'm saying is you've highlighted, I'm a bit like you maybe, where I surround myself with people who fit the gaps that I can't. And so obviously one of the gaps is taking an idea and how do you actually turn that into something? And that's
Mm.
where we might say traditional coding or something like that, right? And there's this real merging now of someone with a bit of knowledge base where they can tack on some other stuff. And I guess like one of the things I've been thinking is how long away is that day where I can wake up and actually just communicate with AI directly and say, just make me this, and it will just tack something upon something else to build you what you need, which is some type of product that can work for customers. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely coming. It'll definitely come soon. Hopefully, by the end of this year, there's going to be some pretty advanced capabilities of that. I think there's going to be a reframing of what is a PA. It's going to be a an AI personal assistant. It's not going to be a personal assistant anymore. So yeah, I think that technology is still not quite here to the capability that you can use it as a full replacement. But I think it's definitely coming for sure. Will.
Wanted to ask you about like what's the tough things in forging your own path? There's plenty of highlights, and most founders don't really share the darker stuff. When I say darker stuff, it's like maybe the worries, the concerns, the things that aren't going right. Because ultimately, like you said, a business needs money coming in, and you need to understand your cash flow and your books, and that's a journey to learn all of that stuff. I guess, how vulnerable are you prepared to be with letting others know the reality of being a founder, trying something on your terms? What kind of conjures in your mind when I'm speaking like this?
It's a thought that I have pretty much every day, and every single day I have a thought that is, have I done the right thing? Right? And it's a haunting thing that's always going to be on your mind. I sold my car in New Zealand, sold everything I had, left a really good life that I'd created for myself. I had a great, potential in real estate career. I'd left that, And so every day I think, was that the right move? And I think you have to be prepared to answer that every day and go, the worst case that can happen is that it doesn't work,
Yep.
right? That's the worst. And so you've just got to be prepared to realize that, to accept that, and to realize there are other options if it doesn't work. And I'm fully
Mm.
prepared for that. If it doesn't work, do you know what I'd do? I'd go back probably to New Zealand, maybe Australia. I'd work in whatever job I could find, save up a, a certain amount of money again, and then do this all again.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess what people don't factor in is that they might say the risk's too high, but you're learning things every day, and your networking and the business anxiety is pushing you towards reaching out like we are today to form networks. And yeah, I mean, I'm just fascinated with the idea of why, what takes somebody to take that leap, and then two, the realities. One of the LinkedIn posts I shared was around, would you tell anyone if you're broke? That
Mm,
if you're hanging on, and I reckon most people wouldn't, because I wouldn't, because I'd probably justify it's no one else's business, but it kind of is, because you're going out there saying you're trying something on your terms. And if you make it look too good, you might encourage or motivate other people. You might silently mentor somebody to say, I'm going to do what they did,
mm,
without sharing the full story. And so I think there's, more people, especially the ones that have, very good internet numbers, they obviously won't share the harder times they've had, or they will, but only if it goes well, and they have that
yes.
buffer. And so I don't know. I just thought it's very interesting to kind of, talk to that line and to explore what that would actually mean. But at the same time, I don't want to burden the conversation because, like you say, and what I've said to my family is like, if this stuff doesn't work, I'll just have to go find a job. And people do that all the time, you know.
Mm.
Um, Maybe the caveat there might be, how much courage and risk and debt are you prepared to take to make the dream come true? And I think maybe something I'm keen to get your thoughts on is, we all think our idea is a great one, and you've got to kind of put blinders on to just keep heading forward. And maybe I'll relate it to something like you sometimes see in the singing competition talent shows, where somebody clearly can't sing, but they believe they can. And
Hmm.
so, how do you know that your idea, how do you know you're not just on one of those shows doing really bad singing, but you're telling yourself you're a great singer?
I think that in this day and age, in 2025, there are so many business opportunities that require so little investment to start, and also don't require you to actually to invest time in delivering a product.
Mm,
How I mean by that is you could test the market for whatever you do. For instance, you could create a wait list for something and say, if you're interested in this product, pay here, join the wait list, and create a barrier to the product. That takes zero investment, and what you're doing is just gauging market interest. And I think by doing that, that is the way to test your ideas without taking a big risk. So if I was going to start any business, and any business I have started, it has had such little barrier to entry in terms of cost. And I think that's probably the main thing for most people. Um, a, a lot of people will have time, on weekends, after hours, if they really want to do this. So I think you have to think of an idea um, that has a low barrier to entry.
that's good advice, because we sometimes sit in the realm of, oh, I wish I just had this and then this could happen. And
Hmm.
where that's landed for me is more quality human connections.
Hmm.
And maybe I'll ask you this, are you confident, or what's your views that technology and AI will actually improve our quality of connection, um, I'm a bit on the fence about it. I don't
Yep.
know if having the ability to talk to each other virtually will give us, maybe if we think about human connection as a vitamin or something.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I could just be part of the older generation, who is not keeping up with the new stuff. What's your thoughts? Are you hopeful for things like AI and smart tech to improve our life?
I'll bring it back to our vision and
Mm.
what we're actually doing in terms of the healthcare space. So we've got an AI receptionist that is employed by healthcare centres to answer all incoming phone calls, book appointments, and basically do what a receptionist would do over the phone. Now, the purpose of our product is to actually support the current receptionist teams that are there. Currently, the problem is receptionists, when you go into your GP center, if you go into your medical clinic that you're going into, the receptionist is on the phone and they're busy with another patient. We're trying to create a scenario where every time you go in, that the receptionist is able to give you her in-person presence and welcoming and help customers in person. So really that's what our product's facilitating. And I think that's what enables a lot of AI products. For me, AI shouldn't be replacing things. It should be allowing the human race to not focus on the lower value tasks and instead be able to focus on more more engaging, more higher value tasks that actually they more enjoy doing as well. That's where I see it going.
I think it will be positive. If I look at myself, one of the one of the missing bits, and I don't quite know how to say this, like it makes me sound like I am kind of punching down on myself. I really am not. It's just an observation. One of the things I see in very successful mentors I have is just their very high IQ. And it's like they
Mm.
have an AI in their brain and it helps them strategically. It helps them with their focus. It helps them not get shiny object syndrome and all of these things and really dominate in one field. And I actually had to sit back and say, I relate to them so much, but not on that. Because for my whole life, probably being dyslexic growing up, it's distraction is very difficult for me, and I want to go this way. And so a big part of my 40s has been around trying to focus, trying to pick that thing that I love so much that I'm willing to dedicate my time to. And what I've seen AI do for me, whether it be helping read something to me or help me with my grammar, is boost my IQ by a couple points
Yes.
because that's how I'm able to leverage it. So the idea of prompting to me is something I understand very well because I've had to prompt people in real life to help me say, what does this thing
Mm.
say on paper? And I wonder where you sit on that because, you know, I guess the original thought was AI for good, but also that people that seem to be able to leverage it, whether it's the Sam Altmans of the world, they seem to be very, very intelligent too and have a high grunt in their brain. I think it lets them down in other areas of their life socially, as you can imagine, because we all can't be gifted with everything. But you know, yeah, it's not a really direct question. Do you have any thoughts on kind of what I'm saying?
I think that, for instance, ChatGPT, which I'm sure well, a lot of people use. I think you're absolutely right. It enables people who possibly don't have the same mindset, the same thoughts, or the same education on certain things to be able to access them and to actually think about these things. For instance, I mean, myself, the business idea was found through ChatGPT. That's what helped
Awesome.
me find the business idea. Um, so much of the learnings of business and everything that we do is all through ChatGPT. So we use it. We're not smart. We don't know how to run a business. We're making it up as we go, but we're doing it with our mentor, which is ChatGPT, of course. So I think, yeah, that's absolutely massive. And I think one other thing I want to touch on is you mentioned some of these people, they want to choose like a shiny object to go after as their goal, or they want material things, for instance. I think for some people, it's okay to have the dream and the vision. Like for instance, for me, what I really want, I don't want a car. I don't want a house. What I really want is to walk into a supermarket and be able to not look at any price and just choose whatever I want. That
Yep.
to me is freedom, and that's what excites me. Just having the capability to just not have to worry. And I think that's what I'm chasing.
That's awesome. Yeah. One of the mentors I have talked about buffers, and having buffers in your life and maybe financially, emotionally. But, I think most people can have that feeling of a good financial buffer means you could operate on your own terms. And so he has a great financial buffer. And so, that's where I've helped trying to push that conversation with ChatGPT is to help me be more strategic. So I think I've got something that works really good. I think it contributes positively. I think it solves a problem. Now help me frame it up in this context, in that context, and actually so much so that recently I've been kind of working alongside the ChatGPT mentor to say what's an exit strategy, and so
Mm.
that could be having another business acquire it or something like that. Do you think in those realms? Is that something you think about building something to sell?
100%. And
Awesome.
I I hadn't for so long until one person that my business partner actually said, "Hey, I've got this family friend. He said he'd love to have a chat with us and share and hear what we're doing and possibly give us some advice. He's got a tech company as well." So that was great. We had a meeting with him. He shared a book. It's called Built to Sell. And that book, I read that book, and that book changed my mindset completely. It's not only for people who want to sell their company. So it's a very, very good book. I would recommend.
Awesome. It's on the list, built to sell. Chris, you've been generous with your time. We're 45 minutes in. I just have a couple more questions if that's okay. I guess three questions. One is around, I was having a debate with a friend yesterday around the, I guess, cost of GPT in
Mhm.
terms of its environmental cost. The energy taken to power these big servers so that we
Yep.
can create toys of ourselves, the latest
Mhm.
trend that's going around. Um, I guess I'm a conscious person, but I do think that, you know, I don't like to burden myself with that, even though that might be the long term, a weaker case long term. I'd like to think that the advantage it gives us will help us solve for the long term. May I ask for your opinion on, I guess, the growing energy needs for GPTs, etc.?
I think it comes back to, for instance, the very first computer that was made. And the very first computer that was made was the size of, I actually don't know exactly. It's more than a whole room.
Mm,
That's how much size the first computer took. So I think AI is going to be the exact same thing. The amount of resources, servers required to power AI models is just going to decrease over time as the technology gets better. The like we're in the very first stages of it. So
yeah,
I genuinely don't think it's an issue. I think the amount of good that will come out of it will help to solve the bad and will absolutely outweigh the bad. For instance, DeepSeek, if you have not, you may have may not heard of that. It's a uh, AI model that was developed in China, and they did it in a massive amount less of server volume than OpenAI, who runs ChatGPT, did it.
right.
So already there's advancements and findings and better ways to do things.
Awesome. Yep. I think
Yeah.
I'm on board. I'm on board with that way of thinking too. And I guess secondly is, if you were just able to share one piece of, I guess, knowledge or mentorship that you know to be true. And I add the know to be true because, we're always asked to share that one little bit. And, I guess what's something you believe strongly that you would vouch for to share that if someone took onto their life or brought into their life would, help them in a positive way?
Firstly, I'll share a person, and then I'll share something that I feel strongly about. Firstly, Alex Hormozy. You may or may not have heard of him, but he is basically the business guru of the world at the moment. He shares open knowledge about business, very, very valid. If you're really into business, I highly recommend to sort of learn and invest your time into watching him and learning from him. So that's the first one. In terms of what I do myself, and I feel that I may have done this the right way. I think working and gaining knowledge in any field, it doesn't matter where you work, but I think having the ability to save, and I didn't actually really know what I was saving for when I very first started, but I obviously realize now I was saving for the ability to take the risk. It wasn't for an investment. I feel that investments are when you've made a substantial amount of money, then you can invest to keep it and to pay for your lifestyle from that. But I think when you're actually growing wealth and growing yourself, you have to save your money to invest back in yourself. And that could just be to pay for your lifestyle while you're trying this risk, while you're trying this new business. So I think saving to take the jumps is so big.
That's awesome. Chris,
Yeah.
how old did you say you are?
23.
Okay, so I'm 44, so I'm basically double, right?
Yep.
In double time from now, another however many years, 20 something,
Yes.
I'm going to be well out of the game, right? I'm going to be chilling on
Okay.
my piece of land. I'm going to be farming. I'm going to be mucking around. I'm going to,
Fantastic.
you know, try and have some six pack or whatever AI can help me with. When you're my age, around your mid 40s, what do you think your life will be like then?
I'm honestly not sure, Will. I don't know. I don't have any dreams for when I'm that age. I think for my 20s, which is what I've thought about pretty much only at the moment. I want to be mobile, completely mobile. So that means I can work from whatever country I want to. Right now I'm in Bali actually. So I'm able to work from wherever I want. Um, if I don't like it, I'll move. I have the freedom to uh, sort of live a nice lifestyle, go out to dinners, not have to worry about what I order. And that's my dream for my 20s, to become stable and to do that by having my own business, by doing it myself. After that, we'll have to see, I think.
I am really impressed by, and I sound super old here, but I really clearly remember my 20s. It doesn't seem like it's that long ago, but it goes quickly, once you have family and kids and all of
Mhm.
that stuff. And I just wish I was more like you, like having a goal. And maybe if I grew up in today's world, it would become more obvious to me because access would have seeded different ideas. But it's still really cool to, I say I wish I was more like you, but I am happy to at least start at the journey now on my own terms. I would
Mhm.
not like to be in my 50s and trying this stuff, one for energy
Absolutely.
levels, and two, just like, I think that there's a signal after your 50s. It's funny, when I'm in my 50s, I'll probably say it's my 60s. But I like the idea that, my goal is to kind of choose if I want to keep working or not before their retirement age. That would
Mm.
be a really great gift I can give myself and my family. And the only way I can see by doing that is to take life on your own terms, acquire these skills, be very, ethical, but go hard out at trying to achieve your dreams. And I'm about 2.5 years on a 5-year journey for me. So it's really cool to connect with you. It's very inspiring to hear what you're doing. I think, for me, it's really cool because we don't hear too many of those stories. Most people who post on places like LinkedIn, where we both post on, it's sometimes just about the kind of not business owners, rather people who work in business,
Yeah,
And
sure.
I really
Sure.
liked coming across your stuff because, yeah, it's just like most of the stories I hear from people like you are in the States, but you're one of
Mm,
us who are out there
mm.
trying it. And so it's really great to connect. And I want to thank you for your time today, Chris.
Thank you so much, Will. Really appreciate your time too.